everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. We continue with Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. So before we start, this Torah and everything that comes from it is dedicated to the safety and security of our soldiers on the southern and northern borders, to all the hostages that are held captive underground, to all the 250,000 plus citizens that have been displaced from their homes, not only around Gaza, but from the north right now. Y'all don't even know what's going on here. In any case, all the goodness that comes from this is dedicated to them. And of course, to the unity of Israel, which we so desperately need in this time. Okay, anyway, so Hallelu et Adonai kol goyim, shabachu kol haomim, ki gavar alenu chasdo, ve'emet Adonai le'olam, hallelujah. I know I said last week that this would be the conclusion of the golden calf, but there were some concepts over here that I had to get into, and before I knew it, I saw how many pages were being written, and I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to fit all this into one teaching, so we're going to have yet another one after this for the golden calf. But again, these are concepts you need to understand. So we continue with the golden calf. This one is called Whoever is for God with me, or in Hebrew, which sounds so much better, Mila Hashem Elai. All right, so this is chapter 45d. And we continue where we left off. Rabbi says, the princes did not participate in the golden calf, as said in Exodus 24:11. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hand, and they perceived God, and they ate and drank. Ve'el atzilei b'nei Israel. The nobles are, it says atzilei, atzilim, atzilut, right? Nobility, says our text, and nobility is ascribed to the princes. So when it says the nobles, these were the princes of Israel. Now, the golden calf took place in chapter 32, right? These are questions that come up from this. It took place in chapter 32 in Exodus. But this verse that we just read right now, right? And upon the nobles of the children of Israel, he did not lay a hand, and they perceived God, and they ate and they drank. That comes from chapter 24, before Moses went up to the mountain. For the first time, anyway. So, explain yourself, Tamir. I'd be delighted to. To understand what's going on, we need to understand the language and its meaning, because it really, everything breaks down to that. It's very simple. Well, the concept is anyway. So who were these princes? These were the 70 elders of the Sanhedrin and the leaders of the 12 tribes, excluding the tribe of Levi. Remember, Ephraim and Manasseh replaced Joseph and Levi, right? And the leaders of the tribe of Levi were who? Moses and Aaron. While Israel are separated from the nations, within Israel, Levi, the tribe of Levi, is separated from Israel, and the Kohanim, the priests, are separate from the Levites. Like we said, even there's a hierarchy even within Israel, and it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Everyone has a job. I am an Israel. How do I know that I'm an Israel? Because I'm neither a Kohen nor a Levite, okay? For instance, on my mother's side, my mother's mother comes from a priestly family, but that doesn't have anything to do with me, right? I might have that yichus, that connection, but I do not act as a Kohen, not at all, right? Okay. So you have Israel, and within Israel, there's a separated tribe. Those are the Levites. And within Levites, there's a separated family, and that is the Kohanim family, specifically from the line of Aaron. So you can see this in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 16. After all the heads of the tribes are counted by name. And how does the Torah refer to them? Ele kuru'ei ha'edah nesi'ei matot avotam rashei alfei Yisrael hem. These were the ones summoned by the congregation, the princes. Before we're talking about nobles, but in our text it says princes. The princes of the tribes of their fathers, that they are the heads of the households of Israel. Now, granted, over the course of 40 years in the wilderness, these princes, these leaders, right, they changed, right? But let's focus on the first round over here, as they were all very much righteous, God-fearing men. So we can ask, why in our verse does it say nobles, atzilei, and not princes? And upon the nobles of the children of Israel, he did not lay his hand, and they perceived God, and they ate and they drank. We have 4 worlds. Yes, this is the concept you have to understand. But you can refer to them as realities or dimensions, all connected to one another. Arba olamot. The first world is the point of origin, right? Which all reality was created from. It came out of there. This would be thought before creation. Let's say, for instance, if you want to do something, before you even do it, before you create it, you think of it, right? So there's nothing there other than that thought or even forethought. And that world is inaccessible to anyone because it's unattainable. There is nothing there. There is nothing there but the forethought. And this world is called the world of emanation, where it emanates from, as in Olam ha'atzilut, Atzilei Yisrael. You see the language, they're one and the same. The one below the world of Atzilut, the second world, is called the world of Bria, the world of creation. This is the raw material, right? Think of an artisan. We'll get to that. And God created man in his image. This is Genesis, the first account of Genesis. And he created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Vayivare, from Bria, creation. Vayivare Elohim et Adam, betzalmo, betzelem Elohim barato, zachar v'nekeva, bara otam. That's the second one. The one that comes after that is what? The one below that is the world of formation. Just as an artist first has the idea of what to do, and they get the inspiration, then they bring together that raw material, and finally, from that raw material, they start forming according to the artist's will, right? As in the second account. And the Lord God formed a man of the dust of the earth. Vayitzel, from the word yetzirah, formation. First count of Genesis, second count of Genesis. And lastly, so that's the third world. And lastly, the world that we are in. This is the lowest one, the only physical world, and the only place where God's commandments can be fulfilled. In fact, to get into more details, I don't want to confuse too many people right now, but again, we have the Sfirot. If you don't know what that is, I'm sorry, I did so many classes on this. We are in the lowest Sfirah right now, which is Malchut, kingship, in the lowest world, which is Asiyah, the world of action. We just discussed this you could see the last week's Parsha. What is it? Bechukotai. Im bechukotai telechu. If you walk in my statutes and obey or keep my commandments, la'asot otam, to do them. La'asot, from the world of Asiyah, to do, action. Because you cannot do any of the other commands in any other reality except in the one that we are in. You can't fulfill the Torah anywhere else. It's brilliant how God made it like this. So we can obviously speak a lot about these, but you're just getting bullet points for the sake of the understanding of our current text. Atzilut, in the context of the upper worlds, as we mentioned, is the only one unattainable because it's pretty much separate than all the others. It's not like any of the others. Everything emanated from that. So there is nothing there as far as we are concerned that we can comprehend. There can be nothing negative within that world because there is nothing in that world. So what do I mean by this? Isaiah 45:7 says, who forms light and creates darkness, who makes peace and creates evil. I am the Lord who makes all these, right? Even the world of creation, there is darkness and evil. Again, who forms light? Creation came before formation. The world of creation is higher than formation. And for what do we see in the beginning? In the beginning of God's creation of the heavens and the earth, now the earth was astonishingly empty, or tovavo, and darkness was on the face of the deep. So we see that darkness preceded the light, which was formed according to God. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. So we understand by the sequence of realities that Atzilut refers to creating distance and separation, meaning there is a disconnect in the traditional sense. It's not like the other world. So whenever we see this world, Atzilut, you're going to see a separation over here. This is what our text is hinting at, and that's why I can't just read this and you'll be like, oh, I totally get it. because you wouldn't. So that's why we need to get into this. Next, we have Ecclesiastes 2:10. V'chol asher sha'aluni einai lo atzalti mehem. And all of that my eyes desired, I did not deprive them. I did not deprive my heart of any joy, but my heart rejoiced with all my toil, and this was my portion for all my toil. So we can further understand from the language that is atzilut is likened to deprivation, i.e. separation. You see, this is from our text, Ecclesiastes 2:10. In whom else can we see a separation? In Israel, of course, as we are called a nation of Pharisees. A lot of our idolatrous brothers, they don't like that word, obviously. Totally get it. The word Pharisee in Hebrew is prushim, as in from lifrosh, to separate. Literally means to withdraw, as God withdrew us from the nations to be his people. I don't want you with them. I don't want you to do as they do. I need to move you away from them. Let them do their thing, but you are something completely different. How many classes? And we know this. And here is the bow on top. Isaiah 41:89, 8-9. But you, Israel my servant, Jacob whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham who loved me, whom I grasped from the ends of the earth and from its nobles. But what does it say in Hebrew? Asher hechazakticha miktzot haaretz umeatzilea. Again, from atzilut karaticha. From its nobles I called you, terrible translation, and I said to you, you are my servant, I choose you, and I did not despise you. So God referred to Israel as the nobles of the earth. Now, again, it doesn't sound good in English, let's explain in Hebrew, umeatzilea karaticha, and of its, from the earth, I called you nobles. In other words, I made a separation. I made Israel separated from the rest of the earth. Do we understand now? Atzilut, there is separation from the worlds, from the nations, and so on. Now, let's take it from the top, now that we have a slightly better understanding of this concept of nobles and Atzilut and princes, all right? Rabbi says the princes did not participate in the golden calf, as said in Exodus 24:11, and upon the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hand, and they perceived God, and they ate, and they drank. And nobility is ascribed to the princes. What this shows us is that not only did the princes or the nobles of Israel did not participate in the golden calf by default. Why? Because they were separate. Since they were separate than Klal Yisrael, but their hearts and their minds as well. So it's not that they weren't even necessarily there, right? Where were they? Likely in the Beit Midrash, likely learning Torah. And if you say, oh wait, but we did not receive the Torah yet, we just received the Ten Commandments. If you look at all these parashot, you'll see that they're all kind of mixed together. As we learn, Ein mukdam u'meuchar b'Torah. You can put them in any order and they will work. And we also know that even Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob kept all the mitzvot in the Torah. So there was plenty to learn here, even before it was officially given. They had books. They had the Book of Formation, which was written by Abraham, Sefer Yetzirah. There's incredible things in there. So, as a result, right, so their hearts and minds, they didn't even question Moses' return, and the wrongdoing of the golden calf, of course they questioned, to which they protested as best they could. As a result, what does our text say? Therefore they merited to behold the Shekhinah, as said in Exodus 24:10. And they perceived the God of Israel, and beneath his feet was like the forming of sapphire brick, and like the appearance of the heavens for clarity. It doesn't say this really at all, kinda in Hebrew, but whatever. As we briefly mentioned in last class, this is the lowest of the firmaments. There are 7 firmaments. The lowest one is called, what it says in Hebrew, Livnat HaSapir, a realm that is called sapphire brick. Now, I have some books that actually speaks of the 7 realms. Fascinating stuff, but not for here. The other explanation that our sages bring is a rule for learning Torah that is called in Hebrew Ein mukdam u'meuchar b'Torah. That's officially how we say the thing that I told you. There's no There's no forward or backward in the Torah. You can take things out of order and it works. So you could read certain parts in a certain order, and it's not going to actually change the essence of what this is. For instance, in Parashat Yitro, some say that he came before the giving of the Ten Commandments, and some say that it was after, right? That it was actually told beforehand. Nevertheless, it doesn't change the fact of the matter. Another example, for instance, would be Abraham. When we begin to read Parashat Lech Lecha in Genesis 12:1, that's when we're supposedly introduced to Abraham, right? Abraham is 75 years old over there. And yet Genesis 15, at the covenant of the pieces, he is 70 years old, right? We discussed this whole thing. Abraham came to Israel already once before, then he went back. And then that's where, the second time before he came in, that's when God said, Lech lecha ma'artzecha, leave. But the battle of the four armies, that already happened on the first time. The covenant of the pieces, that happened already beforehand. So why does a text give this and give that? The other things you could read, first of all, they're over here, but why does it mess up the order? Because the Lech Lecha is the most inspirational thing. That's what we need to learn from Abraham. He walked that walk. That's why it starts with that. Not, and there was a guy, and then he went to battle. Who is this guy? Within the first verse, Lech lecha ma'artzecha, God said, hey, you, I need you to be a Pharisee. I need you to get out of everything that you know. I need you to withdraw from the world. Okay, and so on and so forth, and that is our people. So again, back to our topic. If Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, or any of the princes of the elders of the tribes, turn to the idea of the golden calf, they would not be able to behold the Shekhinah on the level they did in that verse, whether it was before the incident or after the incident. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, I hope so. Let's move on. Rabbi Yehuda says, also, the tribe of Levi did not participate in the golden calf. The entire tribe of Levi did not participate in the golden calf, as said in Exodus 32:26. And also, this is the title of our teaching. So Moses stood in the gates of the camp and said, whoever is for the Lord, to me. Vayamod Moshe b'shar ha'machaneh vayomer, mi la'Adonai elai. These three very, very powerful words. Remember them because they will be uttered once again, and make sure you are on the right side. And all the sons of Levi gathered around him. Now, I can humbly assume why this is mentioned over here after the previous point, right? This is all to bolster a point. The tribe of Levi, as we said, have been set aside within Israel, who have already been set aside from the nations. So if the elders who were set apart, not necessarily physically, likely also physically, it's not that they didn't visit their families, but they, again, look at where people hang out today. There are people that hang out in synagogues and batei midrashot. There are people that hang out in bars and nightclubs, right? Or that don't necessarily hang out anywhere. But you know that these guys, because they were the wisest, they were the leaders of Israel, the spiritual leaders of Israel. Where do you get your spirit from? You don't just go raise your hands and say, I feel the spirit, and you get it. You have to learn. It's based on actions. That's the whole concept of what we're talking about. Based on actions and deeds, meaning learning Torah and learning how to live it, thereby teaching it to the following generations. That's who they were. That was their job. Okay. So if the elders were set apart, even not physically necessarily set apart, but rather mentally for sure, then the same would apply to the tribe of Levi, who did not participate in the labor in Egypt. Did you know this? Now, I always wondered why. How? What does this mean that they didn't participate in the labor of their brethren in Egypt? One of the understandings is that Levi never integrated into the world system at that time. It was a system. If you read the book of Jasher, it says exactly how Egypt got Israel to be subservient to them. Israel was on top of the world. They were big, strong dudes, all the high positions, all the wealth, everything. And what seems like overnight this happened, it wasn't overnight, okay? It was from actually the death of who? The last brother, Levi. He was the last of the brothers to die, and that's when everybody started to change. And slowly but surely, like boiling a frog in a pot of water, right? Slowly but surely turning up the heat, and that's what happened. But the tribe of Levi, they saw this, and they're like, no, homie, don't play that. I'm not in this game. So like we said, we know that the end is as the beginning. And we know that the final redemption will mirror the first, only on a much grander scale. So when we read in Exodus 9:6, Moses spoke thus to the children of Israel, but they did not hearken to Moses because of their shortness of breath and because of their hard labor. What does it say in Hebrew? Because we miss this in English, of course. Exodus 9:6. Vaydaber Moshe ken el bnei Israel. Moses spoke to Israel according to the word of God. Velo shamu el Moshe. They didn't hear or couldn't hear. They were unable to comprehend what Moses was saying, maybe physically, maybe spiritually, maybe both, likely both. Why? Mikotze ruach. What is ruach? Nefesh ruach neshama. Ruach is spirit, from shortness of spirit. Ume'avodah kasha. Both of these things were implemented. Let's cut off their spirit and let's get them to work so they won't even be able to focus. Kotze ruach, shortness of spirit. They did not hear. They could not hear. Israel is the most powerful nation in the world, mind you. But only when we do God's will. Otherwise, we are the lowest and most despised nation in the world. This is by design. This was the covenant of the pieces that he showed to Abraham. He said, he took him out, behold the stars and count them if you can. The language says that he looked from upwards downwards. Again, we gave the proof of this in the language in the text many times before. What did God show Abraham? The way. Abraham's like, if we're like this, then we're done. God's like, no. Pay attention. If you are part of the nations and you live like the rest of the nations, you by design, you will be the doormat of all the nations. They will, in other words, how we've been living for the last 2,500 years, right? If you don't. But if you follow my word, you will be not only on top of the nations, you will run the heavens. Nothing is, right? Ein mazal Israel. You have nations, you have the mazalot, right? The zodiac. There are certain governing bodies. Above those governing bodies, that's where you have Israel. And above Israel, you got God. And that's it. If you follow in my statutes, in my commands, in my ways, you do what I tell you to do, no one will rule over you except for me. And it's not even that kind of rule. It's more like a unity, okay? So, yeah, this is our situation right now. So otherwise, we are the lowest and most despised nation in the world. True statement, as we can see. Case in point, our world today. Egypt knew this, and they also knew that in order to drain the power from Israel, they must, two things, sever the connection between us and God. That's the first thing. That's the first thing that you do, right? How does this happen? Here's the other simultaneous thing. First, invite them into the culture and into the ways of the world. That didn't work too well in Egypt, as they were not embracing the despicable culture, right? They didn't change their names. They didn't take on their minhagim, and they didn't do any avodah zarah. But they were around it, and after a while, once you're cut off, the pressure starts to get to you. So if they couldn't get them to do their thing, right, to go with their idolatry, what do? What did they do? Plain and simple, Egypt kept them busy. How did they get them to start with all this hard labor, all this 9 to 5 or 6 to 6? I don't know, 6 to midnight, crazy hours, nonstop working. All of Egypt started working together. And so all of Israel started working. And it said every single day, one Egyptian would leave. One more would leave, one more would leave, one more leave, a few more leave here. And after years, this took years, because Israel were in the millions, the tens of millions. We know that only about like 3 to 4 left. And we know that was only 20% of the amount of Israelites that were in Egypt. So Israel surpassed 10 million, 15 million easily. So how are you going to get 15 million who are living on top to be on the very bottom? Slowly but surely. Bring that. Even Pharaoh himself went to work. And then slowly but surely they moved out and only Israel were left there. And that was their way of life. That was their way of thinking. They didn't know anybody else. And generations died and generations were born. And this is what they were born into, thinking, oh, this is how life is. Just like people who are alive today in the world thinking, this is how life is. All I have to do is improve upon this is how life is. Wrong. There's nothing to improve upon how this life is. This entire thing is a lie, and it's all going down the drain. Okay, so again, Egypt kept them busy, so much so that they had no time to do anything other than work in order to live. Sound like your regular Western world, of course. Now, we know in Judaism, life is precious, and we must do whatever we can in order to survive, other than, the three prohibitions, right? We didn't break any of the commandments by which we should choose death over transgression, which is avodah zarah, shfichut damim, and gilui arayot. Avodah zarah is idolatry. Shfichut damim is spilling of blood, and sexual immorality. We didn't do any of those things over there. So what went down? Keep busy. If you're busy down here with all the noise, you're not going to notice what's going on over here. That by default will sever that connection. And why did they keep us busy? If we stopped working, it meant certain death for us and our families. That's why we kept ourselves busy. Okay, I have to do this. I have to eat. I have to feed my family. Pharaoh knew this, and so he said the famous words in Exodus 1:10. Get ready, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they increase and a war befalls us, and they join our enemies and wage war against us and depart from the land. Hava nitchakma lo. Those are the words. Hava nitchakma lo. Hava nivne lanu levenim. These are the same exact language as the builders of the Tower of Babel. Hava, come now. But nitchakma is a scheme. Nitchakma comes from the word chokhmah, wisdom. He schemed. This is where he schemed, plotted, and planned. How do I weaken them? They're untouchable. How do we weaken them? Get them in the 9 to 5, the way everybody does it, but not everybody's doing it. Let's put on a whole charade here. We'll show them this is how we do it, even though it's not. They'll join into our ways of the world. Not idolatry, not sexual immorality, not bloodshed, but our ways of the world. And then everything will be fine. They'll think it's fine because there's none of those transgressions, right? But look what's happening today. Yeah, sure, in the way of the world, but you can't live in that kind of way of the world and also have a connection with God. It doesn't work. Case in point. Let's interrogate them into this. Let's integrate them into the system of the world, the same one that we have today, and they will lose that connection, thereby giving their power away. We are just giving our power away today. Israel, how do you kill a Jew? Not his body, but his soul, right? Love him and accept him as one of you. Whenever a society or empire tried to kill us, they just caused unity. And in the end, we prevailed because of God's help, because we were united and we did tshuva. While that empire no longer exists, except for Rome, of course, but that's because we're all still in the system. But whenever the society embraces us, we slowly started to become like them. Look at the Hellenistic period. Hey, why not? I mean, look at all these fit Greeks. I also want to work out naked in oil with other dudes in the sun. And they had a reverse circumcision thing. It was a painful operation. I forgot the name. But in any case, they basically uncircumcised themselves because they were embarrassed of their circumcision because they're all walking around naked and doing their thing. So, true story. This was the Greek Empire. And then it got into the Roman Empire. And today, oh yes, sure, Jews, come, be one of us. Look how quickly we're disappearing. So whenever society embraced us, we slowly started to become like them, thereby losing our connection to God and sparking anti-Semitism and persecution worldwide. Because really, no one likes Israel because Israel's not doing their job. And still, that's not the worst part. The worst part is the silent death of the Jews that no one talks about because it's not politically correct. All the intermarriage that has been going on in the States, right, primarily, but also elsewhere in the world since the Holocaust is a spiritual death blow to us. Next generation, no Jews. That's it. And today, who knows who's a Jew? Those who were strong to begin with, those who separated themselves from the nations, even within the nations, even while they were living among them, but never took on their customs or lifestyles. Not saying not going to work, but not embracing that mentality, not embracing that rat race, that lie, which people still call the American dream. Come on, it doesn't exist. It never really did. Managed to survive assimilation, but everybody else is caught up and gone. Judaism is like, yeah, I'm Jewish, kinda. It's a tradition. But everybody else, they're already dead. They just don't know yet. This is the sad truth. But hey, we also understand that the end is like the beginning. Only 20% are going to make it. That includes the assimilation. So even when Mashiach shows up on the scene and tells his fellow Jews to return to God, they will not be able to hear him because of the shortness of spirit and hard labor. Will not be able to. Do you know how many Jews in Israel do not want to hear their source of power? They are focused on, I got work and I got plans and I got grand plans. That's great, but that's not who you are. You think hard labor is just moving bricks and getting whipped? Whoosh, that's not what hard labor is. That tie that you wear around your neck, it may as well be a very nice, pretty noose around your neck. You are a slave to the system, a system which we were all born into and believe that this is the way the world is supposed to be. But if you have the Torah, you know that the way the world works is wrong. You know it is wrong. There is a better way. This is the way of God. And the system that those who control it have been doing everything to make sure that you don't see it, including the infiltration of fake rabbis who tell you to embrace the system. And also, you can live a good God-fearing life as a Jew. You can't have both. We've already seen this. It doesn't work. You're going to have to answer the call just as Moses said to the people, Mila Shem Elai. What's up? It's now or never. This is make or break. Here's the line. Where do you stand? It also happened during the days of Elijah in 1 Kings 18:21. And Elijah drew near to all the people and said, until when are you hopping between two ideas? If the Lord is God, go after him. And if Baal, go after him. And the people did not answer him a word. Of course not, because what do I do? What, you don't know what to do at that point? And then we know what happened over there. And he killed the 450 false prophets. They didn't answer because they knew that they could not in truth serve God and live according to the ways of the world. Again, this is my issue with American Jewry today. I know life is nice and cushy, and Jews that are not inside the land of Israel are delaying the redemption. Why do you think there is anti-Semitism right now in the States that are beyond what happened already, way beyond what was going down in before World War II? Look at the accounts. Look what's happening over there. You guys don't see, but they're hunkering down in their communities. Right? No, we'll be safe here. It'll blow over. Come on. It's not going to end well if they're not there. Like we've been saying for years, either you leave now with whatever wealth you can, or you'll be lucky to get out with the clothes on your back. That's it. If you're delaying the redemption, God is the one that is sending these maniacs right now to bang on your door. Say, go back to where you came from. Jew, go back to where you came from. Go back to where you belong. I want to shout it from the rooftops. Nobody listens, right? It's not like I have these, massive platforms. If I did, I'd probably get, media canceled or whatever. Anyway, whoever listens, be blessed. But it's the most frustrating thing to see. I have countless conversations with people who they don't even know who they are. They have no idea who they are. Again, when I woke up to the realities of the world, it's like you always knew that something wasn't right. I can't, again, we keep thinking about the Matrix, but it's like, you know your whole life that it's not how it is, something's wrong, something's a lie. And then when you're shown the truth, you can never go back. And then everyone else looks at you like you're crazy. If you feel the same way, then I promise you're not alone. There are many of us, okay? We are definitely not a majority, but there are many of us, and we are enough. And God willing, we will get bigger. So they can't hear because they are so inundated in the ways of the world. They can't see beyond what the system, the government, the news media tells them to think, or tells them what to feel or how to feel or what to fear. How's that for something? They cannot see what's right in front of their eyes because of all the noise. Like we said, we gave the example with the who was it? It was the son or grandson of Dan, right? Who came and he cut Esav's head off. He was deaf and mute, and Esav and his people were delaying the burial of Jacob, right? He says, like this is makara, right? And if you come to Israel, if somebody does this, it's like makara. What do you want? What's going on? What's happening? This means wait a minute, right? It could mean different things in different cultures. In any case, and they said this dude, they motioned him. This dude is delaying it. What did he do? He drew his sword and he cut his head off. Why? Because he couldn't hear all the that, which is so distracting. All this noise and all this and all this that and everything that's happening right now. It's just noise. It's noise, and it's noise on purpose. They planned this noise already. They're doing this on purpose because something else is happening. Nobody's looking at that. Everybody's looking at this noise right now. Oh, goodness. Anyway, Israel is so messed up today that we still live as slaves to the system. And the ones who see this, the corruptions, the lies, may as well be the tribe of Levi from back then. It's like, no, this is not how it needs to be. So when we hear that call, we'll come a-running, hopefully. Again, I say humbly, right? Rabbi Yehuda says, also the tribe of Levi did not participate in the golden calf, as said in Exodus 32:26. So Moses stood at the gate and camp and said, whoever is for the Lord, to me, and all the sons of Levi gathered around him. Since Mashiach is connected to all of Israel, as we all have that spark within us, though his strength is given to him from God, obviously, it can only be realized if there is a people who desire it. We need to ask for Mashiach. That's why it says when the people cried out to God, immediately he sent Moses, the Redeemer. That's where it has to get to right now. So essentially, it is we, the people, who legitimize the governance of Mashiach, the Lord's anointed, just as the tribe of Levi did so for Moses after the sin of the golden calf. As our text continues and says, Moses saw that the tribe of Levi, every last man, woman, and child, the tribe of Levi, did not participate in any capacity. Immediately he became mightily strengthened. Since the entire tribe separated themselves from all manner of falsehood, they saw the ways of the world. They saw that it was a lie. So as it was already in Egypt, they were separate. They could easily see the truth. Now we understand from this that all those who sinned, right? As we will see in the next week, only 3,000 people out of millions, right? Were from all the other tribes, but not from the tribe of Levi. So in other words, the tribe of Levi was the only tribe that was completely intact, is what I'm saying. So we discussed a king without a kingdom is not a king. Every king must be recognized by all the people. That's why David is currently God's Mashiach. David Melech Israel Chai v'Kayam, he's alive and well. David was recognized as the king of the united tribes of Israel. I try to do the thing of the, USA, United States of America, but UTI is not a good name for... Anyway, and that's why he was king. Though he was anointed as king by Samuel before a small group of people from his town, that did not take effect until he was sitting and ruling from Jerusalem, which was only 7 years after he was ruling as king from Hebron. How about God, who is Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He? Is he not king over all? Obviously he is. However, when will he be recognized as king over all? Zechariah 14:9. And the Lord shall become king. Shall become king? Is he not king? He needs to be recognized. You see, this is how it goes, even according to God. And the Lord shall become king over all the earth on that day. When? At the end. That day the Lord shall be one and his name one. Is the Lord not currently one and his name one? Of course. But without the world or kingdom recognizing this, He is in waiting, as are we. This is not me making this up. We're learning this directly from the Torah. And when this happens, by that time, the redemption, that's it. It will be over, and this becomes a world of only good, while simultaneously all the evil will be burnt away. There can never be a vacuum. What this shows us, according to our text, is that what we just read is that the people are the ones who strengthen the leader or help realize his governance. Moses saw that the tribe of Levi did not participate. Immediately, he became mightily strengthened. They gave him the backing that he needed. And why did this tribe strengthen Moses? Was it because it was his tribe? Not in the slightest. Moses didn't favor anyone in Israel, just as David did not, which is why David established Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and reigned from there. A city that belongs to no single tribe, though it's between Judah and Benjamin, but rather it belongs to them all. It's like Washington, D.C. It's its own district. So if it's not the tribe, then what was it? The answer is in the text. Moses saw that the tribe of Levi did not participate. This, I believe, is a hint to the end of days, when all those who will participate in the ways of the world, trying to fix this, trying to cleave to something that is on its way out, and will not let go, will not be around in the new world. They will be gone with the old. As said in Isaiah 60:21, and your people, all of them are righteous. V'amcha kulam tzadikim, le'olam yirshu aretz. They shall inherit the Eretz Yisrael forever, a sign of my planting, the work of my hands in which I will glory. Maseh yadai lehitpa'er. In the end, the Israel that remains will be 100% sold out to God, just like 100% of the tribe of Levi will be sold out to God. We'll all know this at that time, of course, as whoever is supposed to be here will be here, and whoever is not, the land will vomit them out. As we also read from our sages and our writings, the land is going to vomit them out. Whoever does not really belong here. And so, whoever remains, and all your people, all of them are righteous, will inherit the land forever. That's how we get around this. It's not even to get around. This makes perfect sense. You can't be, it's good, but no, that's not Israel. Israel is 100% with God. When all the righteous are gathered, no evil can be among them. That is Israel. Well, that's how Israel is supposed to be. They are of one mind and with one single focus to fulfill the will of God, no matter the cost, because we all know, especially those of you who have either gone through a conversion process or are going through a conversion process, or if you are a Baal Tshuva, but again, specifically, while becoming part of Israel, you have to do a serious Lech Lecha. You have to let go of everything, no matter the cost. It will cost you everything. And if there's a question, then you don't belong in Israel. That's what that is. This is how this is. I'm not making this stuff up. We're reading it from the text. Then the wicked around them will cease to exist, as it will all be burned up. As our text continues and says, Moses saw that the tribe of Levi did not participate, immediately became mightily strengthened. Immediately he took the calf and burned it in the fire and ground it up like the dust of the earth. Though we are made up of 12 tribes, we are only strong together. And the tribe of Levi represented that unwavering unity and faithfulness to God, and that is actually the secret of Israel's success. As we read in Exodus 32:26, whoever is for the Lord, to me, Mila Shem Elai, and all the sons of Levi, all the sons of Levi came and gathered around him. This could not be said of the other tribes, like we said. In the end, just like Jacob's dream, when he went to sleep and he saw the ladder, right? The 12 stones of the altar, he said, and he took from stones of the place and he placed it under his head. And when he woke up and it was one single stone, that echad, that unity, that is where we are all headed. It's all going to be one. We have 12 according to the heavens, according to how God created us, and then we are going to fuse together, and there are not going to be any tribes anymore. The ways of the world as we know them are going to disappear. Everything is going to elevate, but we have to complete the tikkun. And everything that is happening today in the world, the final sifting through the dirt for the holy sparks, this is what's happening. Once that last spark has been collected from the depths of the pits of impurity and places their feet here in Israel, we will receive that call. And if you are fortunate enough to hear it, just make sure that you come running. Mila Shem Elai. Whoever is for God, with me. And that's our class for today. So like I said, sorry, we didn't end the thing over here. We're going to continue with the golden calf next week. So please stay tuned for that. There's a good chance of conclusion. We might have an extra one. I don't think so, but who knows? Whatever comes at that time, right? In any case, thank you all for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week. We are celebrating Yom Yerushalayim this Wednesday. It's when we finally got Jerusalem back from, the Jordanians, and then gave it back immediately afterwards for no good reason. Erev Rav. And we have Rosh Chodesh on Friday. In any case, you have a great rest of the week, and Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye now.